You ever felt like you see things that other people completely miss? Not because you're smarter, not because you're better, but because your mind seems to notice details, patterns, and behaviors that most people walk right past. What's interesting is that people with unusual thinking patterns often don't realize they're different because from their perspective, the way they think feels normal. But psychology suggests that certain behaviors tend to appear in people who process information differently than the average person. Today, we're going to look at 6 of those signs and pay attention all the way until the end, because the 6th sign is the one most people misunderstand. In fact, many people see it as a weakness when it may actually reveal something important about the way your brain works. So as we go through these signs, keep a score in your head. How many of them describe you? Let's find out. Sign number 1. You need solitude more than most people. Most people assume that being alone means being lonely, but those two things are not the same. Some people spend an hour alone and immediately feel bored. Others spend an hour alone and suddenly feel mentally alive. If you're the second type, your brain may process information differently. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas don't appear when you're surrounded by noise? They appear when you're walking alone, sitting quietly, taking a shower, or staring out of a window doing absolutely nothing. That's because your brain finally has room to think. The average person uses silence to escape thinking. You use silence to start thinking. And that's where many of your best insights come from. Sign number 2. You rarely stop at the first answer. Most people want answers. You want understanding. When someone explains something, your brain doesn't automatically accept it. Instead, another question appears. Why? How? What caused that? What happens if the opposite is true? This often makes you an overthinker, and sometimes that's frustrating. But there's a difference between anxiety and curiosity. An anxious mind imagines problems. A curious mind investigates them. You don't just collect information. You pull it apart. You look underneath it. You want to know how things actually work. And that's exactly why simple answers rarely satisfy you. Sign number 3. People mistake you for lazy. This is where many people misunderstand you, because from the outside, it can look like you're moving slower than everyone else. Everyone jumps into action. You hesitate. Everyone follows the crowd. You question it. Everyone says yes. You stop and think. And because of that, some people assume you're lazy. But what if you're not? What if you're selective? You don't automatically invest your energy into every opportunity, trend, conversation, or project. Your brain wants to know one thing first. Is this actually worth doing? That doesn't mean you're always right, but it does mean you spend more time evaluating than blindly reacting. And that often makes you look different from the crowd. Now here's where things get even more interesting, because the next sign has nothing to do with intelligence, yet it's one of the strongest indicators that your brain notices things differently. Sign number 4. You read people faster than expected. Have you ever met someone and instantly felt that something was off? Not because they said anything obvious, not because you had evidence. You just noticed small details, a tone change, a forced smile, an inconsistency. Most communication isn't verbal, and some people naturally pay attention to signals others ignore. You notice patterns in behavior. You notice when actions don't match words. You notice when someone is pretending. This doesn't mean you're always correct, but it does mean your brain is constantly collecting information beneath the surface. While others focus on what people say, you often focus on what people reveal. Sign number 5. Your interests don't follow the crowd. Think about the things you're curious about. Are they the same things everyone around you is obsessed with? Or do you find yourself exploring random topics for no obvious reason? One week it might be psychology. The next week it might be ancient history, then human behavior, then productivity, then something completely different. Many people follow trends. But curiosity doesn't care about trends. Curiosity follows questions. And when your brain becomes interested in something, you often dive deeper than most people ever do. Not because someone told you to, because you genuinely want to understand it. That's a very different motivation. And now, we arrive at the final sign, the one most people get wrong. Sign number 6. You observe before you react. This is often mistaken for weakness, especially in a world that rewards instant reactions, instant opinions, instant anger, instant responses. But some people naturally pause. They watch, they listen, they process, then they respond. And that small gap changes everything, because emotional control isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to prevent emotion from controlling your behavior. Anyone can react. Fewer people can remain aware while emotions are happening. If you've developed that habit, your brain may be operating very differently from most people around you. Now, here's the important part. Having these signs doesn't mean you're special. It doesn't mean you're a genius. And it definitely doesn't mean you're better than anyone else. It simply means your brain may process information, people, and experiences in a different way. So, be honest. Out of these 6 signs, how many did you recognize in yourself? Write the number in the comments. And if you noticed 4 or more, tell us which sign describes you the most.